Today, we're breaking down the latest developments in the escalating conflict between the United States and Iran. From rising tensions and military threats to sudden shifts toward possible negotiations. We'll be pulling insights and reports from multiple sources, including Sky News, PBS News, MSNBC, NPR, and direct statements from President Donald Trump, along with analysis from experts like Michael Clarke, Nick Schifrin, Greg Meyer, and Mark Hertling. From threats of major strikes to a surprise pause and potential deal, this situation is changing fast, and we're going to break it all down for you in one place. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to The News Feed. We start with analysis coming from Sky News, where defense expert Michael Clarke breaks down a major moment involving Donald Trump and the escalating situation with Iran.
If he was likely to back down on this or likely to find room to not implement it because it was such a serious step to take which would spin the war completely out of anyone's control.
This latest move from Trump may not be as sudden as it seems. He explains that stepping back from a major strike was actually expected, mainly because of how serious the consequences could be. A decision like this could have pushed the entire conflict completely out of control. Now, Clarke also points to a critical technical issue behind the scenes. He explains that the US was considering targeting Iran's power infrastructure, but that's not simple. Iran has over 400 power plants across a massive country, with more than 90 million people. So the question becomes, what exactly do you hit? Clarke says, if the US targets smaller facilities, it wouldn't have much impact. But if they go after larger ones, the damage could be massive, and that brings serious risks. He suggests that military leaders may have pushed back, asking what the actual objective was and whether the plan would even work. And with only about 48 hours to prepare, there may not have been enough time to build a clear strategy. But the biggest factor here is Iran's response. Clarke explains that Iran made it very clear they were not backing down. In fact, they warned they would strike desalination plants across the Gulf. These are critical for water supply and are extremely vulnerable, which could lead to devastating consequences for entire regions. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Iran is now framing this as a win. They're claiming there were no negotiations and that the US backed off. Clarke says this shows confidence, especially as Iran is now making demands like closing US bases and receiving financial compensation. Even if those demands are unrealistic, it shows Iran believes it's in a strong position. But Clarke also warns this could backfire long term. While Iran may feel strong now, this conflict could eventually weaken its own government from within. Now, continuing here on the news feed, we move to reporting from PBS News and journalist Nick Schifrin, who brings us the latest developments on the ground. Here's what journalist Nick Schifrin said. According to PBS News, Donald Trump is now signaling that this war could be nearing an end. He says there are major points of agreement and suggests a possible deal with Iran may be close.
Major points of agreement, I would say almost all points of agreement.
At the same time, he makes it clear that if things don't work out, the strikes will continue. Iran, however, is rejecting that narrative completely. Iranian officials, including Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, say there are no negotiations happening and accuse the US of spreading false information. Now, this announcement had a major global impact. Oil prices dropped nearly 20% after Trump's comments. But energy experts warn the damage has already been done. According to the International Energy Agency, dozens of energy facilities across multiple countries have been hit, and recovery could take years. Meanwhile, the fighting continues. US forces are targeting Iranian drones and missile systems, while Israel is playing a major role in defending the region. In fact, officials say this is now the largest air defense effort in Middle East history. But even with that defense, Israel is still under heavy attack. More than 400 missiles have been launched toward Israel, and not all are intercepted. In one major strike, missiles hit near sensitive areas and residential zones, injuring over 100 people. Residents say the situation is becoming terrifying, with many feeling that nowhere is truly safe anymore. Iran is also increasing its use of advanced weapons like cluster munitions, which spread multiple smaller explosives and increase the risk to civilians. Even Israeli officials admit that no defense system is perfect, and politically, this situation is creating tension. According to PBS reporting, Israeli officials were surprised by Trump's sudden push toward diplomacy, even as military operations continue. At the same time, countries like Pakistan, Egypt, and Turkey are being discussed as possible intermediaries, but it's still unclear if any real negotiations are happening. Now, moving on with analysis reported by MSNBC and NPR. We're now on day 24 of the war, and the situation is becoming even more uncertain. According to MSNBC, gas prices have surged more than $1 per gallon in just 1 month. At the same time, the US has eased some sanctions on Iranian oil, raising serious questions. Over the weekend, Donald Trump threatened to strike Iran's power plants if they didn't reopen the Strait of Hormuz, giving a 48-hour deadline. But then suddenly, he postponed the strikes and claimed negotiations were already...
Public relations people. We have had very, very strong talks.
Stop speaking with Mr. President. Speaking with in Iran.
A top person.
Is that the Supreme Leader?
No, not the Supreme Leader.
Iran still be able to control the flow of oil?
Be jointly controlled.
By who?
Maybe me. Maybe me.
You want the United States to be in
Me
control?
and the Ayatollah, whoever the Ayatollah is, whoever the next Ayatollah. And there'll also be a form of a very serious form of a regime change.
Again, Iran denied this completely. According to NPR correspondent Greg Meyer, there may be indirect talks happening behind the scenes, possibly through intermediaries, but nothing official has been confirmed. And this is where concerns grow. Political analyst Amanda Carpenter says there is no clear objective in this conflict. While the US claims success, there's no clear explanation of what the end goal actually is. From a military perspective, retired General Mark Hertling raises serious concerns. He explains that planning major strikes like targeting power infrastructure cannot be done in 48 hours. He also warns that such actions could lead to massive civilian damage and even raise legal concerns. Because of this, it's likely military advisors urged caution. Meanwhile, the US already has around 50,000 troops in the region, and more could be deployed, raising fears of escalation. And then there's the nuclear issue. Trump claims Iran may give up its nuclear program, but international experts say there is no verified evidence of that. Iran's nuclear capabilities remain one of its strongest bargaining tools. So, right now, we're looking at a situation where there are conflicting messages, no confirmed negotiations, and no clearly defined strategy. Now, continuing here on the news feed, we move to direct remarks from President Donald Trump himself regarding the negotiations with Iran.
As I announced earlier, based on preliminary conversations between the United States and Iran over the past 2 days, I've directed the Department of War to temporarily postpone planned strikes against major energy and electricity targets in Iran. My whole life has been a negotiation, but with Iran, we've been negotiating for a long time. And this time, they mean business. And it's only because of the great job that our military did is the reason they mean business. They want to settle, and we're going to get it done, I hope. But I would say there's a very good chance. And it began when I said that I won't be. We were planning tomorrow on shooting down some of their power plants, and we're going to hold that up. Hopefully we won't have to do it, and hopefully we can make a deal that's good for all of us. And so we're giving it 5 days, and then we're going to see where that takes us. And I would say at the end of this period, I think it could very well end up being a very good deal for everybody, as good as if we went all the way and just literally annihilated the place, which if we don't have to do that, that would be a good thing, not a bad thing.
Speaking on the situation, Trump says he has temporarily paused planned strikes on Iran's energy and power infrastructure, following what he describes as preliminary conversations between the United States and Iran over the past 2 days. That's the latest update here on the news feed. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more updates as this story continues to develop. We'll keep bringing you the facts, multiple perspectives, and everything you need to stay informed, all in one place. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next update.